Hello, welcome to Changes, the podcast where we dive into the real unfiltered moments that force us to reinvent ourselves. I'm Dovydas, and today we're getting raw about growth, resilience, and what this really means to change your life. My guest is someone who lives and breathes this stuff, the host of the Growth Voyage, transformation coach, and frankly, a guy who walked through the fire more than once, Harrison Saunders. If you're new here, Changes is not just about a podcast, it's also a mastermind for people who want to turn moments of crisis into real, lasting progress. More on that later. Harrison, welcome.
Thank you, brother.
For everyone who doesn't know you yet, how would you describe who you are today?
Oh, yeah. Big question, brother. And yeah, firstly, I love the introduction and I love what you're doing here. I think it's all really cool, super exciting. In terms of my own journey, man, I think since I've sort of gone into the whole sort of mindset, transformational coaching space, I suppose a good way to answer this question would be to talk about sort of my personal development journey and how that has shaped me and how my stories really sort of shaped me into the man I am today and why that's inspired me to go and help other people. So, yeah, I guess it all started, I had like really privileged childhood, super happy. And I was very, I said, sort of privileged and fortunate in many ways. But yeah, at the age of 6, that's when my parents got divorced. And my life that was the first time when my life really started to change. My whole sort of perception of life. And yeah, I think during my sort of upbringing and especially during school as well, I did find some moments super challenging. Especially at school, I always struggled to sort of fit in. I was always a quiet kid. I'd make maybe one or two really close friends, but aside from that, I was very much like, okay, there's the crowd of people, and I was sort of here by myself. I developed like defense mechanisms. Maybe, hey, if I sort of keep quiet, or yeah, maybe if I'm funny, then they won't pick at me. Maybe even if they're laughing at me, maybe I can, yeah, sort of at least sort of get accepted somewhat into everything. And yeah, that dynamic carried on, but I found a lot of joy in sports and stuff like goalkeeping. I was big on football. I was also a big pro wrestling fan, and yeah, I had a lot of energy and I just needed to go somewhere, right? And at school, that was where I started to really stand up for myself a lot more. And yeah, they got me into a bit of trouble at school, but ultimately I found a lot of power in, hey, you know what? I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore. I'm going to start. Yeah, I think that's where I started to really like step into who I am today. And I think it was around 15 where I thought, you know what? I really want to change my life. I really want to make a difference. And that's where I started just purposely doing really hard stuff. I remember I saw a reel on Instagram where I think it must have been Instagram where they were like, cold showers will change your life. Like the classic. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Let's try that. And I really think my first cold shower, that's where my life started to change. Like, no joke, man, because there's something about doing something even when you don't want to do it. And ever since then, I've taken a cold shower every day. I absolutely love them now. It's like a non-negotiable part of my day. But it was then where I was like, okay, cool. I can now cultivate this sense of self-belief and confidence and self-love by doing this hard stuff. And that sort of ties into the rest of my life, really. I always loved pushing myself physically. When I was 18, I did the London Marathon, which was my first sort of big challenge. And what an amazing feeling that is. If you've ever done it, people listening will know if they've done a marathon, the high you get lasts like a week after, man. The endorphins are crazy. And yeah, at 19, went to university. And I think that's where my sort of life started to really change and shatter, because I entered sort of depression for the first time and I had this big sort of social anxiety at university. I was in sort of relationships that were a bit toxic, and that's where sort of my perspective on life really shifted. It was like, oh my gosh, wow, I've hit this sort of rock bottom moment. I didn't think this place existed. I thought depression was something maybe other people experienced, or like, oh, you can just be happier and it's simple as that. But that was like a real wake up call. It was like, oh wow, like who actually am I? And now looking back on it, I realized that a lot of the time I had low self-esteem from school, but I'd built up my ego and my confidence again through going to the gym. I started gymming at the age of 15, soon after my cold shower.
Yeah.
And I built up this perception of who I was. But the problem is that even though my physical appearance started changing and the way I carried myself on the outer world, my inner world hadn't changed yet. So I went down when this incident happened at university that sort of triggered all these responses. That's where I really started to look at myself. And I started noticing there were symptoms in my life where I wanted to change. There were parts of myself I wanted to change, which didn't serve my best interest, right? So people pleasing, not setting boundaries with people, hanging around some sort of toxic environments because I was really keen to be liked. And I started battling these symptoms. I kept going. And also I was choosing to do really tough stuff as well. So I started Thai boxing. I trained with the best guys. And this is the best piece of advice I would give to people if they want to get better at something. It's surround yourself with people who are better than you. So that was my attitude. I found Thai boxing. I'd gone away from football because there was something about the team dynamic which didn't really suit me. I felt more empowered being like a lone wolf, where you're responsible for your own journey. You're not relying on anyone else. And yeah, I found Thai boxing, absolutely loved it. I was pushing myself and that was a real outlet for me. And that's just one example. And then since then, I've gone to do jiu-jitsu and then to jiu-jitsu competitions and do all this hard stuff, which has been so rewarding. And I think that is where you build the character traits to become the man you are today. And as I was battling all these symptoms, right, and becoming a better version of myself, and I was really keen on self-development, I also found that I didn't quite fit in with the same crowd anymore. It's like because I'd experienced this at such a young age, suddenly the health, I had, well, that's it. And I felt like my depth of thinking was just at a different level to everyone else. I wanted to have these deep conversations because my mind had gone to that dark place. And I think a lot of people at that age, naturally at 18, 19, haven't been there yet. Some people don't reach that until they're maybe late 20s, 30s, 40s. I know we spoke on our podcast about sort of your journey as well. And so where you had that, okay, something needs to change moment. But that for a lot of people, I think that doesn't happen until a lot later. So I found it difficult to connect with people. And what I found in my journey was the more I started doing hard stuff, the more I sort of became this person. And yeah, I'm very keen to dive into that and that energy, right, a bit later. But what I found was that there was something underneath all these symptoms that I was seeing the world through. I was seeing the world through a specific lens, and I was battling all the symptoms of this, but I didn't know what the root cause was. And then I remember hearing about a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover, a very famous book. And I remember reading about it because it's like, right, stop being the nice guy, right? The nice guy is, for those who don't know too much about it, they might think, okay, nice guy doesn't sound that bad. But yeah, like, if you want to be known as the nice guy, it's like, okay, he's a nice guy. Yeah, he's a nice guy. It's like, okay, nice guy.
It's nothing. Yes, it's a nice guy.
Exactly, yeah. And so I was intrigued by the book because I remember thinking, yeah, I kind of resonate with that. Like, I'm a nice guy. People say I'm a nice guy, but I always felt like I had so much more to offer the world, and it was very frustrating. And what I found was, being this book, reading through this book, I was like, that's really strange. Like, it's describing me. I'm literally the nice guy. This is crazy. So that blew my mind. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I had the nice guy syndrome, which is a real thing.
Yeah.
And the nice guy syndrome. And that really just brought everything together for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I've been a nice guy my entire life. I've been battling it and I've gone through that journey. And even now it shows up for me still in the form of sort of perfectionism and not setting boundaries with myself. You start off setting boundaries with other people, but you never set boundaries with yourself. So you take on so much, you overwhelm yourself. It crops up in all these different ways, man. It's not as simple as, okay, yeah, all right, someone wants you to do something and you say yes, but you actually don't want to do it. It extends beyond that. There's so many layers to this sort of nice guy trait. And yeah, I've been down this whole rabbit hole since then of, okay, what's nice and what's being kind. And yeah, I'm sure we'll touch upon that a bit later, but that was what really blew my mind. And then what happened was I remember a lot of my friends, I was helping them out with their personal lives. And I realized that, okay, these guys are nice guys as well. And I was helping them a lot, but I could never really give them my full energy and time because I was working. So it was like, and they felt like, oh, sorry, man, I really appreciate your help, but it's a burden, like you shouldn't be giving away your time and energy to me. Like, I know you've got far more stuff going on. So I was like, all right, well, why don't we just create a fair value exchange? Why don't you just pay me and then I will get deep into your life and see if I can help you?
That's easy.
And then, yeah, that's how it fell into it. And then I started getting pretty solid results for these guys. And I was like, okay, cool, I might be onto something here. And I drew some parallels. I even had some podcast guests on as well. I started the Growth Voyage podcast. And I found that I was speaking to people because it's all about men's challenges, right? It's about, right, what are you going through currently? Because on another note, man, like when we talk about sort of men's struggles, men's challenges, every guy is going through something.
Yeah.
Right. That's like, there's no doubt in my mind. Okay. Yeah, of course. Like some people might be going through more joyous arcs at the moment, but by and large, like if you're struggling, you're not the only person struggling, like everyone. And that was the main message. It was like create content that is relatable, but also inspires as well. So we've had a great range of guests on. Obviously, your story was super inspiring, how you lost all this weight. You're over 130 kilos at one point. And it's like, right, so if someone else is 130 kilos, they can listen to that and be like, hey, if that guy did it, I can do it as well. And that's been my biggest lesson through the podcast is that, and this is what I've always believed in as well, is that anyone can change their lives if they really want to. And a big part of my mission has been, right, don't fall into this victim mentality because it's easy to do, man. Everyone's, like we've discussed before on our podcast, everyone is a victim. There's always stuff happening, right? It's like, okay, is this happening to us or can we empower ourselves to take responsibility? And when I was 19, I always had the mentality of, oh, you know what? They've done this to me and what have I done?
Something is always there. Something is around us.
Of course. And it's only when I was like, no, I'm responsible for this because I'm the one who didn't set boundaries with this person. I'm the one who attracted this type of relationship. And then that's where I realized, okay, it's never about them. It's about me. And then once I realized that I'm the one who allowed all this stuff to happen in my life, that's where my life started to change and I could tackle the symptoms. But if you go around blaming your external environment, then nothing's going to change, right? And that was a key mindset shift for me. Now, coming back to the podcast, I found that I was speaking to guys about their challenges, but naturally, sometimes they might want to go a bit deeper, but okay, you're not sure who's going to listen to the podcast. And we've developed a nice community on there, but naturally, not everyone's going to want to air their deepest traumas to the world, right? Understandable. So a couple of episodes, I talked to them after and I was like, okay, you know what? I think we could go a bit deeper on this. Would you like some support with that? And then that's where I think the sort of mindset coaching, transformational coaching, whatever you want to call it, that's where it really took off because I was like, okay, I'm actually getting results with these guys. And yeah, since then, that's been sort of where I've started is using my personal experience and figuring out a framework that I use from my journey that helped me. And I don't have all the answers, but I do know what's helped me. And so far, it's helped my guys as well. So that's where I'm at now, growing the podcast and yeah, just seeing where I can still guide people to their own answers. I really believe that I don't have the answers for everyone in the same way that most coaches don't have the answers for everyone. They've got their way of doing things, but the only person who's going to change their life is you or the person who's listening to this podcast. All the answers are already inside you. What our role is as coaches is just to guide you to those answers, is asking leading questions, but all the answers are there. The person that you want to become, all the things that you want in life, the answers are inside you. And I really, really believe that no one else is going to change your life. But I think if you know where to look and you start to tune into your emotions, I'm sure we might get into that a bit later, and you start to listen to what your body's telling you and you start just observing, a lot of the time, the answers to our problems is to do more and to just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. Where what I've realized was actually, if you take a step back and look intrinsically, all the answers are there. And when you start, and this is why I love self-development, because it's all just a journey of self-discovery. That's why I call it the Growth Voyage, because you're just constantly growing, you're always learning new things about yourself. And if you're open to learning, then yeah, you could get to wherever you want to be just by doing the inner work. So yeah, there's a long answer to who I went, but there's a little introduction for you.
Thanks for your answer. And I have a few outtakes of that what you said. You mentioned a lot of times friends, you mentioned changes, and looking inside of us. Yeah. So let's think about that. Through changes, we lose a lot of our friends or colleagues or people that we know. We change our circles, basically. So when we choose to do something different, we already changing the people we are interacting with. And I think to have any changes, well, efficiently, you should also have people around you that are in the niche kind of. Yeah. So you want to do business, talk to business people. You want to grow better inside of you, talk to coaches. You want to market better or sell something, talk to people that are doing that professionally and learn from them. Because doing everything alone without having a reference, a contrast, it's possible, of course. Everything is possible if you have enough balls. You can do whatever you want. But having someone to help you is much, much better. And we will start to realize as soon as we change our patterns, our life, our people that surround us also changes, right?
Absolutely. And that's a very interesting point because as we decide, right, I want to change, you can have that intent, but a lot of the time what's going to happen is the people around you, more often than not, they're not going to want to change, right? And a lot of the time you become friends with these people because you bonded over a certain type of energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is when you change, these people will look at that and think, what's wrong, Dovydas? Like, why are you changing? Like, what's happened there? And then
You're different.
yeah,
You're not the same.
you're not the same. And you're changing but also you've got to have empathy for these people as well, which is a big thing in my art. Because I used to think, no, I'm leaving these guys behind. And what you go into this whole, yeah, I'm better than them. It's like, no, you're just going down two different paths. And I think you have to be very conscious. And this is why you really have to cultivate a sense of self-belief and believe in yourself that you can change. Because as your energy changes, you're going to have all these people trying to get you back, right? And try and get them back to the same energy as before. This is why you might decide you might want to stop drinking, but then they're inviting you to the pub. Or you want to take up, in my instance, it was, right, I want to pursue pro wrestling, but then your mates closest to you, they're like, oh, come on, mate, just come to the pub instead. Again, it's not like one path's better than the other, but they're just different paths, right? There's a clash there. But what happens is with the nice guy, as you're leaving this old circle of friends, you start, because validation has been such a key part of your life, a lot of the time it's very easy to fall back into your old train of habits and patterns, right? And this is why, especially with the nice guy, why are they nice? It's because they are using niceness as a fear-based strategy, because they fear that if they're authentically themselves, they'll get rejected or they won't necessarily show up to the world or be accepted by the world as the way they are now. And this is why when you do change, you've got to have a lot of sort of belief in yourself, as we were saying, that you can change, but also knowing that, hey, if you do fall back into old patterns, that doesn't define you. It doesn't mean that you're stuck there, right? You can, like, the amount of times where I've like decided I want to change and then I've had to get back up because maybe I've gone on like a big like weekend bender or whatever, or maybe I've gone to a music festival and I thought, oh no, like maybe I've regressed all my progress, I've gone back. It's like, nah, bro, like we all go through different stages of our life. If you've made all this progress and you've had maybe one bad week or one bad day, keep going, get back up and keep going, because the way the sort of compounding effect works and the slight edge, which has been a huge part of my life, the slight edge is, I think, one of the best personal development books you can read if you're starting out, in terms of just understanding how your small actions day by day can have a huge impact over time. And we think just acknowledging that when you are breaking away. But then you've also mentioned something there about surrounding yourself with people who know more than you or have been on the same path you have. I do think this can be tricky for some people, because if you're in some small town in England or France, Germany, wherever it may be, you might not know where these people are. And through speaking with guys on the pod, what has helped them is, and what actually helped me as well, was, okay, choose a mentor. You don't necessarily have to have met this guy, but seek out inspirational people in your niche and just follow and see what they're doing. Surround yourself with that type of energy. And this is my big thing as well, change of environment, right? If you can get out, and if you have the privilege to, because I appreciate not everyone's got this opportunity, but if you can venture out and maybe get one-way tickets anywhere in the world, if you're stuck and you want to change, absolutely go for it. Change your environment, and then you can reinvent yourself. Think about who you want to show up to the world as, not this fixed idea of you that all your old friends have of you, right? So yeah, I think tuning into podcasts, tuning into thought leaders, just so you can get these different ideas in your head. Obviously, reading self-development books. I think if you don't have the luxury to get a one-way ticket somewhere else in the world, start just getting different ideas in your head. I think that could be a good way to start.
We have to still remember that changing a location won't immediately mean that you're changing your life. You can still have your own old patterns in that, and yeah, well, you can never run from yourself. So if you're running from a location, maybe you're just running from yourself. Figure out about that. Maybe it's important to understand that if I'm already changing the location, I also need to change my patterns with that. Because if I go to a new location and I do the same patterns, I go to the same pubs, and how many times I went like to Thailand and was drinking heaps, and what is that? A mental journey? No, it was just the same thing I was doing in Germany. It's the same bullshit. So let's get right into that. And what's the most uncomfortable truth about yourself that you've never shared on a podcast?
Oh, okay. Let me have a think about that. Most uncomfortable truth. I think probably that I've probably carried a lot of shame throughout my life, and it's something you never really realize until you start pushing yourself. But yeah, it's a big thing with like the nice guy as well. And this is where, man, if you're looking at like perfectionist tendencies, which I still do now, I still catch myself doing. Now I'm just more conscious and self-aware of it, so I can change it in the moment. But yeah, even so, perfectionism, you might not think there's a link between perfectionism and shame, but this is what I've discovered now, is actually there's a huge link there. Because if you're a perfectionist, you're just trying to cover up, because behind perfectionism is, oh, if they find out who I am, the real me, then, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I'm no longer going to be accepted. I'm no longer going to be approved. And this is something I'm still battling now on a subconscious level, because I'll come up with a cool idea. It's like, yeah, okay, my audience needs to hear that. That's a great message to put out there today. And then once the sort of overthinking happens, it's like, okay, actually, maybe I should adjust this a bit, or maybe I can include this idea and this idea. And you might have already gathered already, that's how my brain works sometimes. I'll get an idea, and then it's a beautiful thing to have, but you can get so lost in trying to make it the perfect message. And my biggest thing that I'm dealing with now is actually, okay, getting that really drilled into your head of progress over perfection. It's very easy to say, but to do, there's a lot of resistance. And now, and a big way in which we self-sabotage as well is by overworking, feeling like we always have to work the whole time. And it was through a real struggle for me sometimes to just let go of always needing to work. I've got a beautiful girlfriend, right? I don't want to be working the whole time and always just neglecting time with her. But so it's being aware of these patterns and knowing that when you change them, there's going to be a lot of resistance there. And for me, even now it crops up. And I've gotten better at it, but it's like breaking that. There's going to be so much resistance there. Like, okay, go for a walk or do these things. Same with any habit. But I think knowing that the resistance is a good thing, it means you're breaking that old part of you. So coming back to your question, I think I've carried a lot of shame throughout my whole life. And even though I've sort of worn this sort of this mask on the outside, first you start off with the nice guy mask, and then you get rid of that, and then you become strong, bold. But I think beneath all that, there's still going to be shame there. It still creeps up, and that's where a big focus for me has been now is, okay, knowing when shame comes up, knowing what it feels like in your body, and then, okay, cool, what are the mechanisms you can put in place to deal with it? And the number one killer of shame is to talk about it. So having some brothers, having a great friend, we can talk about this stuff. Maybe it's a men's circle, wherever it may be. Hey, even if it's on a podcast, tell people about your shame, because shame doesn't like being exposed. It doesn't. It's like shame. And this is why we fall back into bad habits, right? It's like the scrolling, for example, right? So yeah, one big thing for me is like, okay, a little shame because, oh my God, I've spent so much time scrolling today. Like, what is, because for me, like, I've always been, we talked about this a bit earlier, I've always been very like, hey, social media, yeah, not really for me. I just want to have a Nokia and do my own thing in the land or what have you. And as I've gone into the space I am now, naturally you promote yourself, and I'm really enjoying it, expressing these parts of me. But the other side of that is that, hang on a sec, if you've gone on for 5 minutes to reply to people and help out people in the DMs, and suddenly you've gone down some weird rabbit hole on your algorithm, there's going to be a lot of shame there when you're like, oh my God, what have I done? So what do? You have this shame, and to cover up for the shame, you need that dopamine spike again. So then you're scrolling more because you just need, and you get up in this constant loop. This is what I see with my guys when it's maybe they're watching porn, that's a big one, or maybe they've like eating unhealthily again, and you're in this constant cycle of trying to get rid of the shame, where it's like, no, if you just sit with the shame, sit with that feeling, get to know it a bit, get to know yourself a bit. That's a huge part of what I do now. It's like, okay, because we always try and avoid the emotions by working, by drinking, smoking, whatever it may be, right? And speaking from personal experience here, it's like, right, if you just sit down, right, just sit down and just feel what's coming up and just acknowledge what's going on. And this is why IFS is a game changer for a lot of the guys and for myself as well, because you sit with yourself, you understand these different parts of yourself, and suddenly it's like, rather than trying to avoid them, you actually just sit with them. And then it becomes this very beautiful moment where you realize, oh, that's what you were trying to communicate with me. And yet a lot of the time we try and keep busy to try and avoid them, or we resent them, we get angry. Oh, why are you getting angry? Just stop trying to ruin my life. You know, we have this internal battle with our emotions, but then the game changes when you realize that the emotions are just part of you, and it's these inner child wins, and you just got to reconnect with your inner child, right? Game changer.
Game changes when you realize something. So I think the most important thing to change anything is to first and foremost realize what's happening, realize the problem, to understand the problem and maybe accept it. Okay, I am fat. Why? Because I'm eating shit. Yeah, so now I need to change. As soon as you understand that there is a problem somewhere, is it mental, physical, monetary, whatever, then you can do something. So first and foremost, understand what is happening around us. Yeah. Then you can start changing. So as soon as you understand what's happening, you can change your life. Plus, of course, getting help, etc. Tell me, if somebody only knew you from your Instagram, what would they totally miss about the real Harrison?
Ooh, yeah, this is a great point, because it's something I've battled with for a while. It's like, okay, how am I showing up online, and is it authentic to me? Because I think authenticity is the most important part. And I thought, okay, I'm very calm and calmly confident, right? And I don't like to shout or be bravado, but there is this small sort of 10% of the time, maybe after a gym workout, or maybe I've just done an hours of BJJ, and I'm like, I'm exhibiting that warrior energy, and I'm like, come on, let's go. And we got the big tunes on, and I'm there dancing, and I'm like, fuck, I've got that fuck yeah energy. And then I show that part of it as well, because I'm saying, right, embody this, remember who you are. Because when I was going through depression, sometimes I'd lose myself and I'd be so low on confidence. But then I would go on a 5K run, I'd push the fuck out of myself, then I'd do 2 hours of Thai boxing, then I'd do sparring after that. And it's like, you reconnect with that. Same as the London Marathon, man. I was on, how many miles? I think it's 27 miles, perhaps. And I think I was mile 17, and I was like cramping. I cramped here, here, here. And I'm like there, I'm trying to run. And then there's this video of me pulling my hamstring, and I managed to finish it. I managed to finish, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to finish this. And that was a big thing. It's like, wow, I did that. And a lot of the time we forget who we actually are. So that's the energy I'm trying to exhibit and show people. But then I've also got this other side where I'm just very like, calm and grounded. So it's, yeah, I suppose off of Instagram, it's known that, okay, I'm perhaps more sort of introverted, perhaps, than some people may think. Yeah, I think a lot about things. I really reflect on my own internal world, but also the outer world. And yeah, I think for a long time I was looking outwards a lot of the time at other people and looking at what they're doing. But then now it's like, yeah, okay, why am I actually looking at these people? What are they telling me about myself? I remember being in Sevilla once, and I remember walking past this coffee shop, and I think it was like the manager or whoever, and she just had this really strong energy. Like she was just very, like, she was leading. And I remember looking at that and thinking, I want, you know what, I want that energy where, like, I'm not looking at everyone else. I'm focused on my own mission, and accessing that warrior energy. So yeah, I look very intrinsically to myself. Yeah, perhaps I don't know about too much, but yeah, I think, yeah, I'm confident. I've got this internal belief that sort of I know who I am. I know what I've been through. I've developed the character traits to get to where I am today. But there's still a part of me which is, yeah, I think it's still very sort of intrinsic, and I still reflect on myself. And I think perhaps to my, not a disadvantage, but I'm always thinking of how I can improve and do things. And yeah, I think I just have so much love to give, you know. I'm very sort of sensitive, and that doesn't always come across my Instagram. Maybe I can show that part of me more, but for a long time, I was very sensitive growing up. And because I was sort of bullied at school and stuff, I built up these really strong protection or defense mechanisms, and I built that up. But I think beneath all these layers of character and resilience, I'm actually a very emotional guy, very sensitive guy. And it's something I want to embrace more of. But at the moment, I've looked more about embracing this warrior energy, because I think a lot of guys are looking to embrace that. It's that warrior energy of, okay, cool, you're showing up today, you believe in yourself, you're confident, there's no doubt in your mind, you're not focused on all the external stuff, you're not distracted because you're just so focused on your own mission. A lot of guys I speak to, they want purpose, they want to serve something outside of themselves. And that's the warrior energy. They're so focused on their mission, they're not worried about anyone else. And there's like shadow parts to this warrior energy as well. Perhaps you get too focused on your mission, or you get so focused by the external validation and all this other stuff, which I can really relate to. But the warrior, he's just so focused. But now I'm thinking, okay, actually, I'm integrating this grounded warrior. Okay, so he's in control of his emotions. He understands these parts of himself. And that's what I think a lot of guys are looking to access when they're in the self-improvement world, when they're tuning into your work and this podcast. They want to grow, right? And I think a big part of that is accessing the warrior. And you go from maybe this nice guy persona or this old self, and when you're switching, you're on this journey, and you want to, I think people are going towards this warrior energy, right? Where you're confident, you're not doubting yourself, you're just going towards your mission, you have purpose. And there's this middle ground here. And that's the one I think it's like, okay, how can we get you to this full warrior energy? So I'd say, yeah, definitely look at the archetypal work and the four archetypes. There's the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. It's a wicked book. And yeah, my journey now is to go from, okay, cool, the grounded warrior, because it's like, yeah, you sharpen your jiu-jitsu, your jing, your pro wrestling, and you'll go, and that's where you have that warrior spirit. That's the part of you and that's part which I'm looking to show more of on my socials. But then it's like, okay, cool, how can you now integrate the other archetypes so that you're not too focused on your mission that you neglect the important stuff in life? And that's a journey that I'm still on, and I'm still trying to improve myself, because I feel like and there's always going to be parts you can improve upon, right? But I feel like through my lived experience, I've accessed that warrior archetype. And now I'm like, okay, cool, let's embody this grounded warrior. But then let's see, now that I'm getting all these amazing connections in my life and surrounded by like-minded people, okay, cool, how can we ensure that, yeah, we can still give back to the world? And not sort of shut off your emotions altogether, right? So incorporating the other archetypes, so you can become this embodied man, and that's what I'm really working towards now for my own personal development.
Okay. The word that again and again comes into my mind is contrast. You were talking about being a warrior, being a sensitive guy. Yeah, it's completely two different worlds. So I think most of us are most of our lives in one and the other side, and we try to go to another. You know, if we are very sensitive, we are trying to be the warrior. If we are the warrior and senseless, we want to understand our feelings. But maybe in the process, we sometimes forget the middle ground, as you were talking about. We need to somehow understand the both, maybe live through both cycles, and then pick ourselves like the best of one and the other, and find our own middle ground. I think that could be the way to be sane, to not break yourself down, and live live happily long term. Because contrasts, like huge contrasts at their own, like the extremes, are never good, right? So tell me about your biggest and worst place that you have been. What was your worst moment in your life?
Oh yeah. So in terms of the worst moment, I'd say there's two that come to mind. One was when I was 19 at a university house party,
Mm-hmm.
and that was where I was high on drugs, drinking lots of alcohol, and I was sort of on and off with somebody at the time in this you'd call it a romantic relationship, however you want to call it. And long story short, my expectations weren't met. I was sort of planning to, like get lucky this night or whatever. And then the person who I was hoping to spend the night with ended up sort of choosing somebody else, right? And it was like a big shattering for my ego. And I remember that was when I sort of went into sort of the depths of like depression for the first time. I was like, oh, it's scary as hell, man. I was like, what is this? This is terrible. And I was so just on that note, I was so fortunate because even though I think a lot of people didn't really understand what I was going through, I did have like two really good friends who were there for me, and they like sort of helped me through it. And so that's like a really big message just on this point is that, like absolutely go and seek support. If you do find yourself in that rock bottom moments, it doesn't matter if it's never too much, never too embarrassing. If you've got the right people, if you've got someone who you know will listen to you and see you for who you are, then absolutely like speak it and tell them, because then at least you've got some support there. And I think that, along with creating my own sort of love for myself, showing up for myself every day, I think that's a game changer, man. And it was after then I would just keep on showing up for myself every single day despite that. So I remember I'd wake up, and this is when I'd wake up in the morning, I'd have a good sleep, so I felt a bit better. And I'd wake up in the morning and I was like, okay, I'd look myself in the mirror and I'd play my favorite song. It's called Holding On by Pascal. I remember it. And I put that in the mirror and I'd look at myself and I'd be like, yeah, you know what? You've got this today. You can do it. And then I go in, and then I'm like, trying to control this stuff. I didn't know how to control my nervous system. I didn't know what was going on. And this is why I do what I do, because it's like, I've been through that journey and I'm giving you the tools that I wish I had at that point. Like, okay, what's all this anxiety? Like, where are these emotions coming from? But I showed up for myself every day. And I think that is what cultivates the warrior. I think it's embodying these traits, which you can only get through lived experience, right? It's about going through the tough times and still going anyway. You still show up for yourself. It doesn't matter what's going on. You go to the gym, you go to Thai boxing, you get your sleep in, whatever it may be. You do the stuff that right, it's tough today, but you know what? I still did this. I still got this done.
Repetition, consistency, right?
Well, that's it. And it's massive. And I think that's where I've built up so much resilience now, because I've just been kicked down and just kept on going. And so I think a lot of guys actually, they want to access this warrior, but then there's this midway point where they're stuck at where they want to access it, and they've really got hunger to succeed, and they've already broken away, but they're keeping themselves back, right? The mountain is themselves, and okay, maybe one day they don't show up, and then it's like, okay, how do I bounce back? Or how do you study what went on there? Like, what actually were the patterns? Why did that happen? Rather than kicking yourself down and over obsessing over it, which is what a lot of us do, right? We're our own worst critic. It's like, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. Okay, can you take the emotions out, understand what's happening, and then think, okay, cool, why didn't I do this today? And then build better systems in place. So that's a huge thing. And there's also another memory in my mind as well, where I think it was New Year's Eve, something like that. I was hosting a New Year's Eve party. And yeah, long story short, at 12:30, so half an hour after the countdown, I just, yeah, absolutely tanked it, got way too drunk, and went to the bathroom, and then I woke up at 3:30 and everyone had left. And the next day, I remember I went on a walk because I just felt so bad in myself. I felt so much shame, so embarrassing. I hosted this New Year's Eve party, and like everyone had left, and like the host had, yeah, it was just, I was so embarrassed, and I was just so disappointed in myself. Like, mate, what's even going on? And yeah, I remember going for a walk the next day, and I remember just going to this field, and I remember just thinking, you know what, one day it's going to be better, and I'm going to be remembering this moment. And those are so powerful, because I look back on that, I'm thinking, wow, I would never have imagined like getting to where I am today. But there was a small part of me thinking, I'm going to look back on this moment, because it's a real, like, oh, you just feel so terrible about yourself, man. You're like, wow, what you did. So I really remember that moment as being the catalyst to go, right, okay, cool, we're not going to go back here. And since then, man, I've had so many strange moments and tough moments as well. But now, and even now, I go through tough moments, man. But I see them, and this is a huge thing, I think. This is why spirituality is such an important part of what we do, because your whole perspective on life changes. So when I go through tough times now, I see it as this beautiful thing, because I'm shifting, I'm getting rid of all this gunk, all these past emotions, and now I get to experience a higher level of myself, or the next stage of my growth. So it's shifting your perspective on the challenging times. I love the challenging times now, more of the physical ones than the mental ones, but even the mental ones, it's like, okay, this is cultivating even more and more and more resilience and discipline. And I'm at this age now, if I just keep on following this path, because once you're on the path of growth, I don't think you can really stop. Like, I sometimes thought, do I really want this? And it's like, well, yeah, because I just know that you can become better if you were just open to growth. So yeah, that is,
Look, because
yeah.
we realize that everything that happens to us is something new to learn. Before, let's say a few years ago, even uh, if I had a problem, I was thinking about, yeah, how everything around me is bad, how I'm gonna handle this problem, and not seeing this as another challenge for me, like mentally maybe, to get better. And nowadays, is if I had a problem that is really hard on me, I just sit down to myself and think, okay, um, think about, why are you feeling like this? What's those feelings are giving to you? Are they good? Are they bad? How those feelings will change you? Yeah, so even the bad moments, after, like panic, whatever, you sit down and think, okay, this made me stronger. This made me better somehow, right? So there are a lot of moments in our lives for people that have maybe childhood traumas, etc., that they would say, oh, I would like to change those moments. But I think also we have so many moments, like you just told, that we wouldn't go back and change them, because those bad moments change the perception how we see the life, and changes our next moves, basically. If we had a problem in a relationship and we managed to survive that, the next one is going to be better, or maybe the next argument will go better, right? So everything that we do, it adds up, it stacks up. So if we realize that, we can use it, we can utilize it. So, and every perception Like everything that happens to us, we perceive differently. If we start to perceive things instead of something negative too, maybe a lesson or a challenge, we will work at that better. Imagine you drop something on the floor, your phone dropped on the floor, right? And it's let's say it's cracked. Yeah, you can say like, fuck me again, and I need to buy a new one and whatnot. And you can see it in a different way. I dropped my phone. Why was that? Because I'm a fucking clumsy boy. Yeah, maybe I should change something about it. It's already the 5th time this year. Should I pay for that all the time? So maybe then you realize, okay, I'm a bit clumsy. Should I maybe before putting in my pocket, look at the pocket first? Simple things. You can apply it to everything. Yeah, but as soon as you realize your problem, you can actually change it.
That's a great point. And I also think the universe will keep on teaching you the same lesson over and over and over until you start learning the lessons, right? So you might, and this was a big thing in my journey as well, right? So my first sort of relationship, if you want to call it that, when that didn't turn out, I repeated the same patterns over and over. And at first I was like, okay, cool. That's actually helped with the initial, so you can call it wounds that it exposed. It helped with that because it's like, okay, cool. Like it wasn't just that person, it's now this one and this one, but I was still looking outwardly. And it was only when I was like, okay, why am I allowing these relationship dynamics to happen? Okay. And it's like, okay, hang on a second. It's because I don't respect myself enough to put boundaries in place. And that's where I started thinking, okay, I'm attracting this type of energy. It's never there for. It's like I'm allowing this to happen. And that's where, so if you do want to take responsibility, then I think that is where you're going to start learning these lessons. If you're not sure how am I going to learn the lessons, just look at the patterns in your life, look at these low moments, see what's going on. And yeah, absolutely. I think that is where you can start to make meaningful change. But then also, I think you asked me what the best day of my life was as well. And this is why you've got to really appreciate these tough moments because they make the best ones so much better, right? And it's really like, again, like you were alluding to, we might at the time be like, oh, we don't want this. I really don't want this tough moment. But then ask anyone who's been through tough moments, right? I could even ask yourself, for example,
True.
would you take any of them away? Like, I mean, I don't answer for you, but I can imagine your response, right?
The toughest moments of my life actually made me better now. So if the sooner you have those moments, I think the better, because then you're gonna be better in your life further on. When you already have maybe your family, then it's already a crucial moment to be someone to understand what you are inside and not give your mistakes, your bad character traits to your children, to your spouse. That's I think that's the worst moment because I learned that in a bad way from maybe my parents, how they treated me or how they treated themselves. If you are not healed, if you're not, in Zen with you or whatever you like to call it, I don't think it's the right way to go into a relationship. Like I think you should start from your own. You should start loving yourself first before loving somebody else. Because otherwise, you just take the love from the other person, or the other way around. The person takes the love from you, and it's just not a collaboration. It's more of a suction cup action.
Yeah, see, I've got some interesting views on this. So, yeah, what I say to people, if people say to me, right, I want a girlfriend, I think, okay, this is what we're going to do, right? So you want a girlfriend. What I'd ask them to do is like, right, I want you to become the best version of yourself, right? And a lot of the time we can think of, okay, right, what are the characteristics of this girlfriend? Like, how does she act? What energies does she embody? What does she does? Okay, are you embodying those now? No. Okay, which ones do you need to embody in order to attract that person? So then you start doing more work on yourself, and then what happens is you cultivate so much self-love and confidence because you're stepping into this best version of yourself. So you become that person, and then what happens is because you've reached this point, you no longer want a girlfriend anymore because you're just so content with your own company. And then once you let go of it, that's where the original mission comes true because you found that person because you've let go of wanting them. And that's, I think, how the universe works. When you let go of really wanting something, that's where it will step into your life. I do, however, think that ultimately, if we wait until we're fully healed to enter into a relationship, like, I don't think we ever reached that fully healed point. And I do 100% agree that, yeah, absolutely. The more work you can do on yourself before having kids, like, absolutely, like, fantastic. I think there's this conception you need to have kids young. I think, really, like, how much more, how much better would the child's sort of childhood experience be, and the behaviors they adopt, if you do another 5 years of growth and self-development before that? I mean, yeah, that's just my point of view. But I also think in terms of the relationship, yeah, I think it can actually be, if you're both willing to grow together, that for me is the number one most important thing. I wouldn't say in all relationships because I can't speak for everyone else, but from my standpoint, that's got to be the number one thing that you guys share in terms of values. Do you both value personal growth and spiritual growth? Because if you do, then you're both committed to getting better. So even if you're not fully healed yourself, you can then be open to, and the ego is going to want to say, oh, but why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to me? And it's always, again, looking outwards. But if you're both really committed to improving yourselves, doesn't matter how many arguments or disagreements you have, because you're always going to have that conversation after and take responsibility. Okay, where was this wound coming up from me, and why did I say this? For a long time, I would make sort of jokes of my partner, and I would just take the mick and stuff. And I think, oh, why are you being sensitive? It's just a joke. And then when I went through my own journey, I realized, oh, okay, it is actually coming from my own place, my own wounds. And it was only when I had to get through my ego's like, oh, why are you being sensitive? It's like, hang on a sec. Let me look intrinsically. Okay, it's coming from a place because, hang on, I learned that behavior from somewhere, or I was picked on at school, and now I have an opportunity to offload it into someone else. So it's being open to all these lessons and improving yourself. So yeah, if you want, I don't know, let's say fully healed, or you haven't worked on yourself that much, and someone comes along and you think might be a good partner, I think just having the awareness of going, okay, cool, this may or may not be the right one, but okay, am I open to growing and learning in this? Is she open to learning and growing? And on a side tangent as well, my conception of relationships has changed quite a lot. I think a lot of the time we can attract people in situations that feel familiar, but aren't necessarily safe or good for us. And I found that I was, because I hadn't worked on myself that much, I was attracting situations and relationships which were imbalanced, right? And I was addicted to this sort of feeling in my body of excitement and the ups and downs and the inconsistency. Yeah. And now I've realized actually all I want is peace and calm. And yeah, of course it's still going to be exciting. I'm sure you get excited by your partner all the time, but it's peaceful. You know, it's like you know what to expect, and it's consistent, I think.
So I agree totally with you about that. You should just try and do something instead of, making everything ideal, right? So you should go into a relationship if you're not completely fully healed, but you need to remember that you need to continue this journey and not just stop at some point. Oh, I have a relationship now, I don't need to change anymore, right? Or go back to the old patterns because, I already achieved what I wanted. So yeah, this important the continuation still grows and that the partner also supports you. The biggest change in my life regarding, well, almost everything, but I think especially relationships and toxic relationships was stopping drugs and alcohol. That was the biggest change. I always thought, oh, what does it matter that I take something or I do some or I drink some alcohol or whatnot? It's just nothing. It's just like a weekend thing. But I attracted the same kind of people. I also attracted people who are regularly drinking or regularly taking drugs or whatnot. That was not what I was searching. And as soon as I stopped doing that, I didn't have toxic relationships. Like, let's say it was not like, oh, from this day on, it's over. It still needed a lot of work on that, but it started to get less. And with each one you try, it went better and better, right?
Yeah, I love that you've mentioned that as well, because I think alcohol in particular can be such a big distorter of our real emotions. And this is why I have my own views on it. I don't have anything against alcohol by itself. I think it's the way it's used and abused, right? And I think it's having the awareness of, okay, why am I using this thing? Am I using it as a social lubricant? If so, why? Is it, do I need this to get on with this person? And this was the biggest revelation in my journey. It was like, without alcohol, it's like, do I find these people, are these my people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've been on a whole journey with sort of alcohol as well. And similar to yourself, man, when I went sober for a long period of time, 6 months, a year, I think you start to, that's where you can really start noticing shifts. You notice energies in other people. I think your frequency shifts as well. I think alcohol's a very low frequency thing. And yeah, I think reality is, man, as you were alluding to, I think if you're constantly entertaining that and surrounding yourself with people who are on a similar wavelength, then that's what you're going to attract. And again, we come back to the partner and the relationships. It's okay, if you're not getting luck in your chances of attracting your ideal partner depends completely in your location, right? So for somebody, if you're looking to attract a dream girlfriend, or the chances of people even being attracted to you, it's going to be different in different places, man. So, whether you go to a gym, the percentage of people who'd be interested in you is going to be different towards a nightclub or to a library or to a cooking class, whatever it may be. So it's also just having that awareness of, okay, if you're not meeting the right types of people, this is romantic and platonic, then again, like, look somewhere else. Are you going to places where you can do your passion or do your thing, or you're connecting with like-minded people, or is it like a bigger group of people with lots of different energies in there? So that's, something to think about as well. So happy you brought that up.
Okay, and what do you think surrounding yourself with positive people, is it essential or is it bullshit?
Oh man, it is, I think, one of the most important things you can do, especially early on in your journey. That it isn't, and it's not even just positive and negative. It's limiting beliefs and beliefs on what you can accomplish in this world. Right? When you talk with people, do they say, yeah, absolutely, we could do that? And this is the biggest thing I found, right? So one of my good friends out here, he's an online fitness coach, and yeah, back home, he might have had people saying, "Oh, should you be doing that? Oh, could you charge that amount? Could you?"
Yeah.
And you're gonna have people are limiting beliefs like, "Oh no, you've got to." They might be telling you, you might have these big dreams, and they're gonna say, "Oh, you need a stable job, and you need." And a lot of the time, it might be coming out of a place of love, right? They just want the best for you, and they think they know what's best for you. But a lot of the time, only you know what's best for you. And if you're trying to set out on your dreams, and they're saying, "Oh, I think it would have happened by now," or "Oh, wait, it's going to be difficult," they're doing it out of love. They want to protect you from failure. But at the end of the day, right, he's come out here and now he's hanging around people who are saying, "You're only charging that much amount for your coaching program? Why aren't you charging like 5x that, 10x that?" And it's like, "Oh, have you thought about this idea? Oh, yeah, I really love what you're doing there." And it's about people who have a growth mindset. So you surround yourself with these people who are not only like positive or operating at a higher frequency, but suddenly they're actually giving you different ideas. They're talking about how you can expand your idea, not subconsciously shutting it down by going, "Oh, are you sure about that?" Pay attention to people's language as well. I think that's a big one. How do they talk about other people? Are they saying, do they make comments about like rich people perhaps? Are they saying, "Oh, I'm not sure about that," or "Oh, how the other half live"? Do they have these sort of conceptions, beliefs about people? Because if that's what they think and that's their connotation with money and success, and you're absorbing that for yourself, and what's that going to do to your subconscious relationship with money? Okay, rich people is bad. Okay, having money is bad. So then you're not going to. That's just one example, right? The money example, but I think there's just so much you can achieve in your life, and I think it's, the positivity is one, but okay, do they have a growth mindset? So pick up on the languages of that. And also just, I think you've got to be careful about protecting your energy. It's something that I'm still working on, to be honest. I find it tricky if I've got this like positive energy going and I'm surrounding my people with sort of negative energy, I find it difficult to protect myself. I find myself kind of, still struggling to protect that sometimes. So that's something to be aware of. But absolutely, man, like I think I think we've talked about this on the pod, but they've done studies on this as well. If you surround yourself with successful people, even if they're in the same room, you're not even speaking with them, then they're going to have a positive impact on the work that you're doing. And you speak to a negative person, and I think as you do more work on yourself, this is why doing the inner work and self-development is so important, because as you do more work on yourself, you become so receptive to other people's energies. You can literally see it, like you can feel it as well. Like when you watch next time, like, and again, this is why alcohol gets in the way of all this stuff, because it's just numbing yourself to like the core of like energy and who we all are. But you can really just notice the next time you meet up with someone, how do you feel after? Do you feel energized in your body? Like, do they really energize you? Do you feel like you could take on the world, or has it sapped your energy? Do you feel a bit like, ah, if that's a sign, that's a brilliant sign. Okay, are they negatively or positively impacting you? And as you do more work on yourself and you strive to do better and you strive to grow, that is where I think you'll be, all this stuff becomes second nature. But I think before then, I think you've got to, look out for the signs. But eventually, I think it just becomes more and more natural, I suppose.
Yeah. You reminded me of one particular moment in my life where I was on, let's say, one of the lowest points. Yeah. I was in a job where all of the people in the laboratory that I was working in were very negative, except for like two or three. So they were the worst influence on me that time. They always told me like I was not enough, I was not capable of doing something. I was dreaming to achieve something more, and they were like, yeah, you, like they were always negative on any idea all the time. Doesn't matter how big it was. Was it an idea about my future or an idea about how to finish a project that I'm doing for work? It was always like you, no. And one of the best feelings was when I understood what's happening there. I understood how shit I was treated, and I quit this job. So I went with my friend and I put a letter of resignation into the post at the company's office, and it was like my freest moment of my life. I was like, yeah, fuck. Finally, I'm out of there. I can actually do what I want to do. So yeah, the worst moments actually motivate you to create the best ones.
Oh, yeah, man, 100%. And but that's a great point, because sometimes we won't even realize that we are in a sort of negative environment. It can just become normalized. So I think we've also got to be in tune to go, okay, right, this isn't normal. And that's why speaking with someone who you can trust as well is a game changer, I think, for just noticing, okay, something's not quite right here.
We're talking a lot about self-development, but is there a thing that's called too much of self-development? Please elaborate.
Yeah, that is a wicked question, right? That is a great question, because I think you can get so, and I'm speaking from lived experience here. I think you get so obsessed with growth and self-development, you forget to live life a bit, and you forget to enjoy life and become fun. But I also think a big part of the game, I think, is integrating all your lessons and actually just having these different areas of your life like balance, and actually create it. Okay, you know what? This doesn't have to be something I obsess over. It can just be a way of being as well. So a good example is, okay, if you're always just looking to improve yourself and keep on going, then you're going to miss out on all these wonderful opportunities. And you realize the whole reason why you're doing this in the first place is to get more enjoyment out of life, right? That's why you're becoming, I think, the better version of yourself. So yeah, I do think there can be a point where you go overboards, and that can also tie in with your ego as well.
Could you give me the basic symptoms of too much self-development?
So yeah, let's think about my experience. I think for me, and when I say too much, I just mean like, I don't think you can ever do too much, but it's more like, okay, what's your mindset towards it, type of thing. Because I also think growth is always wonderful. I think it's again, when you go so far into self-development, you start going down this negative loop of, okay, right, I'm not doing enough, and okay, I should be going here, but I keep on making the same mistakes. And it's like, a big part of self-development is actually compassion and super passion with yourself. So it's like, I think getting focused on one area of self-development, and then you're neglecting another part of self-development, which is actually having compassion for yourself. I also think we're learning so much, but without the integration as well. So it's like learning all the lessons, reading all the books, reading all the podcasts, but then never actually integrating it in your own life. This is something that I've been guilty of, is where I've gone, because there's so much information, man, and it's a big part of me. It's like, right, learning every day, right, let's read an article, let's listen to a podcast, let's learn a lot. But then I think, okay, actually, am I actually taking the time to just integrate what I've learned? And this is where suddenly I actually went quite overboard with all these learnings. I was doing so much self-discovery. I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually quite a lot, because I'm discovering so much about myself in such a short period of time. Oh my gosh, like my whole world's been shattered. Okay, where do I even go from here? So I think learning something and thinking, okay, how can I apply that to my own life? And then getting the reps in, and this is what we do in the coaching space as well. It's like, okay, right, we're not getting all the answers at once. Okay, we've got an answer here. Let's integrate that. Let's make sure that you're on that road, you're on that growth journey, not just, okay, well, we made that. Okay, cool. Let's find out this thing and this thing. Then you're left with this huge pile of shit. And it's like, okay, what do I do with all this? And you're just a shell with nothing inside. It's like, okay, we discovered this part of ourselves. Let's build like strong foundations, but all great things in life take time. You gotta learn it, integrate it. It's a bit like presence as well. Something that I've fallen back into as well is not being present enough in the in-between moments. It's like, okay, right, I'm present for this work, and then I'm present for my motorbike ride, then I'm present for this podcast, and then I'm present for my coffee. And that's the ideal. But it's like, okay, in those in-between moments, am I thinking about the next thing? Or if I'm on my bike, am I thinking, or am I present? And I go through like different waves, but it's like, okay, even something as simple as that, are you embodying all this stuff that you value? And it's catching yourself from going, okay, you know what, actually, yeah, because it's a constant process. And I think when you see self-development as, okay, this stage, this stage, this stage, sometimes you can forget about something over here. And this is the joys of coaching people as well, because you're realizing, oh, wow, that's a great reminder for me. I need to do that. So it's knowing your blind spots and always being open to improving, because when you develop this ego of, I know it all, then you've got so much more to learn. And I've noticed that in myself. I've kind of worn this hat of, thinking that, not that I admit it, but I thought I knew it's not more than I did, but I had so much more to learn. That's the point, right? And it's just always being open to learning, and also just know that you can learn so much from other people as well. I don't know about too much self-development, but yeah, when you look too intrinsically, because I was looking outwardly, then I was looking internally, and then I was going so internal, I was like, okay, I can actually learn so much from other people, because if someone triggers you, or I should say, if you've been activated by someone else's actions, or you perceive someone a certain way, okay, what do I learn? What do I like about this person? What do I dislike about this person? Okay, what does that say about me? Yeah. So yeah, I guess going too intrinsic or external as well, for sure.
I had the same problem myself, and also with my scholars that I taught myself, that the implementation is most of the time lacking. Starting by myself, like you said, also I'm learning, but where's the implementation? I learned so much. I read a book, and then I don't know, something happened. I needed to work for a week, and then I forgot what was this book about, and I forgot to implement everything that I learned. So that's why also in my masterclass I'm trying to work more on implementation also, not only about teaching people how to implement everything, and doing this with a lot of accountability, because we lack of it, each of every one of us. If there's always a thing, like the biggest entrepreneurs have so much stuff to do that they forgot sometimes about themselves, or maybe a point that they need to work on. So that's why changes. That's why masterclass changes is something for people who want to change, who know how to change, maybe even, but they need like this little push, like, yo, you need to do something, right? Um, some coaches talk about manifesting or just believing it. What is your take about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think manifestation's a funny one because if you don't really know too much about it, you might think it's something woo-woo, strange, and but I really think understanding the different concepts of manifestation and how it impacts you. So, for example, even your thoughts every day, that's a form of manifestation. Like, that's a big one. So, everything you're thinking about, you can manifest that into reality. I know the first example that was given to me was, okay, if you're thinking, oh, what if my girlfriend's cheating on me? What if my girlfriend's cheating on me? What if my girlfriend's cheating on me? You're going to manifest that, and you can manifest that into reality by emphasizing on that, because then you'll start acting differently, you'll act more insecure, and you'll start pushing that person away. And you can, so that's a big one, is knowing, okay, even just by you thinking, and it happened with me sort of leaving my old job, where I was like thinking about, okay, I want to be abroad, I don't want to be here. And then suddenly it's like out of nowhere, even though my conscious mind was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to stick at this job for like 2 or 3 years and then do the safe option and then go to Spain. I ended up manifesting me leaving and then getting a one-way ticket to Bali even back then. So yeah, I think even just understanding that at the core of it is a big one. And yeah, I know there's different concepts that people use or different methods, like vision boards is a big one. And yeah, I think for me, what I like to do is I always like to picture this. It forms a part of my meditation, but I like to picture this best version of myself and get really clear on sort of what I'm aiming towards as well. So again, not to get too sidetracked, but a lot of guys struggle with motivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the time when we struggle with motivation is because we don't actually know where we're going.
Yeah.
And we need to get clear on that, because once we know where we're going, we can then outline the steps necessary to get to where we want to be. And what I like to do in sort of manifestation is really, like, once I've gone through my meditation, maybe I can talk about that meditative practice as well. But at the end of that, I start envisioning, okay, right, this best version of myself, what's he doing? How does he act? And really sort of envisioning that in my mind and really connecting to that. And so, yeah, if it's like a warrior, perhaps, maybe you can print off a picture of a warrior, or maybe it's a king energy and you want to print off this picture of the king and just really start embodying that. How does it feel? How does it feel in my body? And this is where you can go into some different meditation exercises where you start releasing stuff to the universe and you can get really sort of deeply entrenched in that. But if you just want to keep it basic, just thinking, okay, cool, who's the best version of yourself? All right, at the end of your meditation practice, all right, just envision that. Where are you? And getting clear on your motivation, and then just embodying what that feels like in your everyday life. And I think that is how you can really translate it into reality. And there's different forms on that, man. I don't know what your experience has been with that. I'd love to hear it, because yeah, I think there's so many different techniques you can go there. There's so many podcasts now where they share their techniques on it. But I think you could even just tie it back to the basics, right? Notice what you're thinking and having the awareness of going, okay, is that something I want to manifest into my life? No, then okay, stop manifesting it. If it's a fear, then break away the fear. Right? A lot of the time, again, another tangent, but fear is a big one as well. For example, if you fear that you're going to run out of money, then that's going to be your reality, right? Because you're operating from a scarcity mindset. In your mind, you can't attract that because subconsciously you're thinking, oh, that's not mine. I've got this lack mentality. So that's just one example. And yeah, one way in which I've dealt with fear as well, because we all get these fear responses sometimes. It's knowing the difference between, because for a long time, we want to trust our own thoughts. And I think one of the biggest skills you can learn is knowing, okay, which thoughts should I listen to and which ones should I just dismiss, because 90% of your thoughts are going to be like made up scenarios, right? As like a survival mechanism. And one of the things that has helped me has been, okay, is it my intuition or is it a loud fear voice? And if it's loud and if it's scary and your nervous system becomes dysregulated, sometimes I see that as okay, that's a fear-based response. I'm not going to trust that. But if it's like a quiet knowing, it's like, oh yeah, it's like an insight and it's calm. That's when I know when to trust that voice. But yeah, to bring it back to your question, because I appreciate I go on lots of different tangents. yeah, I'd say be conscious of what you're thinking day to day, because that can manifest itself into reality.
So I am a absolute analytic and atheist and don't believe in any mumbo jumbo bullshit that I call. So my take on that would be this, that manifestation is just a part of our lives. It's just what we are thinking about. Yeah. Our minds every each day creates about 50,000 new different thoughts every day. So if we exchange those thoughts, those maybe negative thoughts, to some positive thoughts, just statistically speaking, you're already going to feel better. If you're going to feel better, you're going to do better stuff or perform better, right? So manifestation is just changing your thoughts, as I see it, let's say from negative ones to positive ones, and that will change your life. If I will start to think that I'm having a good day, I will have eventually a good day, or at least it won't be as shitty as it is. Yeah? Because we can talk ourselves into something. Most of the time, we talk ourselves into something negative. Oh, I don't have money. Oh, I cannot do this. Oh, nobody loves me. We are talking to ourselves every time. Well, here again, we could differentiate between women and men. They think a bit differently. I think for men, it's like, from my perspective, it's better to go to this nothingness instead of talking yourself good, maybe as women like it. Oh, you're so pretty, you're so good, you're worth of this, you're worth of that. Men are differently. You're worth nothing. You have to do this, you have to do that, otherwise you'll be nothing. This is also not the best way of doing that, as I think. We should, as men, maybe go to this nothingness when we are not susceptible to anything, to any bad or good emotions, where we're in this zen, where we can control our emotions, and then from that on, maybe go to this positive. So because nowadays we see a lot of those reels, etc., on Instagram or maybe TikTok, where you are not a man if you're not doing this. You need to be like that to achieve this and that, and it's also puts a lot of pressure into us, right? So again, this warrior perception is good, maybe to understand, to live through this a bit, but coming again to what we spoke before, the equilibrium, to find this middle point, to find this, I call it nothingness, not feeling, not being affected by bad emotions.
Yeah, so that's actually a big part of the warrior. It's just like, okay, he's not actually impacted by all this external stuff. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's integrating all these parts of ourselves as well. And yeah, I don't know. I think with the affirmation stuff is interesting. I do think that, yeah, if you tell yourself something, it whether these affirmations, I am beautiful, I am, all the examples you gave, if you don't believe it, then I personally don't think it will make a difference. But what I think you can do is think, okay, right, what are some belief systems that I forget about myself, or I can cultivate about myself and then repeat over? So for example, right, if if you believe that you don't deserve love in the world, okay, cool, then think about situations where you have exhibited love, or that people have shown that to you, and that, okay, maybe you share your opinion and people listen to you. Like, think of all the evidence that actually this limiting belief is untrue. And then once you've thought about the evidence and you thought about, okay, actually this can apply to my own life, I am worthy, I am loved, then I think it wouldn't help to just have, if you stick it up on the wall just as a reminder, because our mind, I think, plays so many tricks on us, right? It will tell us all these limiting beliefs. Whereas if you go, no, because in my conscious mind, I've built up all this evidence that actually I am this thing, then I think just having that reminder could be pretty useful. I also think in terms of like manifestation and energy, there was a point which I'd like to briefly touch upon, which is I really think we can influence our external reality by our thoughts. So for example, and you've alluded to it as well. If you're in a very sort of negative mindset and you've had a shit day, you might have had this quite a few times. I think we've all been there. And even now, sometimes it can happen where if you're having a bad day and then suddenly everything's bad, like you're attracting this guy over here who's yelling at you, someone's beeping at you, suddenly every little thing is annoying you. And I think that's due to our internal state. Whereas, like I think you alluded to this actually. It's like, okay, this is going to be a good day. This is going to be a good interaction. If there's an interaction, maybe it's with your mother-in-law or with a friend of a friend who's coming up in a meeting, if you think it's going to be a difficult challenge, if it's going to be a challenging meeting, then that is going to happen. You are literally going to create your reality. Whereas, I kid you not, this has worked every time I've done it. Every time I've immediately had that thought of, oh, I'm not sure if I want to meet this guy, or, oh, okay, last time it was such negative energy. What I'll do, I'll literally send a thought out. It's like, you know what, I'm sending really good vibes to this person and it's going to be a really good call. I kid you not, every time I've done that, it's been an amazing call because it's the intention. And I think if our lens of the world is so powerful, right? And this is where my big breakthrough moment happened, was I was looking at the world through this lens and it was so negative and distrustful. And so this is what I mean. And energy is contagious, man. It's like, you know, if we walk onto this podcast and it's high energy and we talk about this, it's like, this is what you find as well. Like, how do you feel after your interactions with people, right? Do you feel uplifted and energized? Is it because there's been a positive energy exchange? Do you feel demotivated, like you were alluding to? These guys were giving you shit the whole time. You felt bad about yourself because they were giving you negative energy. And this is why I believe it's sort of energy and manifestation and all this other stuff, is because by you doing more work on yourself and by you delivering more high energy to people, that's going to have a ripple effect, because then they're going to be energized. They've had a positive interaction and then they can pass that on to someone else. So I do think there's different nuances in there in terms of sort of manifestation and creation. But yeah, you can go down a whole web with this stuff. Yeah. But it's knowing that, again, it's empowering yourself. It's like, okay, cool, I can bring this energy to my life, and yeah, other people can give that to others as well.
Cool. Another thing that's really important in our lives is having authority. If you want to sell something online, if you want people to believe what you're talking about, if you actually want to change something, you need to have authority. That's what are we also talking about in our masterclass. And I wanted to ask you, what changed in your life since you had your podcast? Because podcast is also a tool for authority, a tool for people to understand your expertise, because we live nowadays in this world of short-time media. And the only way for people to actually learn something decently is, I think, like nowadays, podcasts. What's changed in your life since you had this podcast regarding to authority?
Oh, regarding my authority, I think it'd be better to ask that question to people who have observed my content and have interacted with me personally. It's because it would be their perception of them. I can only comment on what's changed for me sort of internally. Is that when you expose yourself to all these different conversations and you start, because what would happen is, like, even our conversation will be released like 2 or 3 months after we recorded it. And what you notice is when that happens is you start really noticing your trains of thought at that time, and you start noticing your patterns. You're like, oh my gosh, I've actually changed quite a lot in 2 to 3 months. And yeah, I think in terms of my authority, it's really made me realize, okay, I've actually grown as a person. And I think a large part of that is due to the fact of having such a wide range of guests, having, such great access to a range of different people, different ways of thinking, but also noticing myself, like, how have my thoughts changed since then? What are the types of questions that I'm asking in these conversations? And I've noticed now, looking back, I'm like, oh, I would have asked something differently there, or I would have gone deeper. So it's been a really good exercise for me from a personal standpoint, because I can't really comment on anyone else or how they've seen me. I've definitely seen that there are people who are more willing to be open in my DMs and ask me more questions. Because I think when you put yourself out there, you expose different parts of yourself and they see the human being, right? It's not just short form content. It's 60 minutes. It could be longer, hour and a half. So I think people have been from their standpoint, I think I've definitely observed more people sort of reaching out and getting involved, asking questions. But from my standpoint, it's okay, cool. You can see your own development as a leader because of the questions that you're asking, and even the way that you talk and the way you present yourself and the different arguments that you make and different perspective shifts. And that's been really cool to see. So I'd recommend to people, if it's not a podcast that you're doing, just record yourself, record videos, and then observe how you change. And you can think, okay, then you can start noticing, okay, why have my thoughts changed? And then you can start looking at, okay, cool, what's worked for me and why has this changed? Like, what thoughts did I have back then that perhaps I don't have anymore? And then you can look at your own framework and think, okay, cool, how can I use this to then get to the next stage of my development?
You're analyzing yourself, basically. And to analyze further, here on your podcast, you coach people. How do you build a team or community that actually supports you instead of draining you? What do you think?
Community in terms of, yeah, I guess the people who are sort of listening and my internal team as well.
Listening, surrounding you, working with you, communicating with you, basically the people that are surrounding you, that you interact with. What do you think? How do you create a community, a team that won't be draining you, but other way around, supporting you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, it's for me, it's just been about just having just genuine conversations with people and just talking with as many people as possible, people who are listening to the podcast, engaging, getting their thoughts. So I make it a sort of a ritual of mine to sort of reach out to everyone who maybe follows the page or who interacts with my content and just getting feedback, and I think just being open to learning has really helped with that as well. So it's having these conversations, and if someone has maybe a criticism or a judgment, perhaps it's just a perspective shift. It's never about the outside world, it's your internal world. The way you react to stuff is on you, and it's like I beg for feedback now. It's so important to me because if you're surrounded by yes men, you never know how to improve your product or your service or even just your message, right? Whereas I think just asking for feedback, inviting people to be open and honest, and that way there's no resistance. I always think we create the resistance ourselves. So for me, it's just been my own internal state, just the way I react to stuff, the way I'm engaging. Just, I think what's really energized me has been speaking with people and getting people's reactions, hearing that people have been motivated by a podcast. That just makes my day. Even just little comments, like if someone makes a comment of saying, wow, this is such a great episode, this podcast is going to go far. I'm like, that means so much to me because I've helped someone else. I've helped inspire somebody else, and you forget how much you know sometimes. And I think some people, if they've listened to a story about, for example, I had one chap who is a friend of mine, and he's starting out his DJ career, and I think he went through like a challenging relationship, and he listened to a podcast I did with a DJ was flip-flopping in between jobs, and he had just gone out of a relationship, and he wanted to DJ internationally, and now he's doing that in Bali, despite only starting DJing, I think 2 years before. And it's just all these inspiring stories, and so people can listen to. And when I hear that they're inspired by them, they're like, oh, wow, maybe I can change as well. Then that's what energizes me, man. It's all about what you let in and your perspective on things as well. And just, that's what keeps me engaged. And that's what gives me the fuel to keep going. At the same time, it's also not being attached to any external outcomes. Okay. I'm not looking at how many sort of followers I've got, how many views I'm getting through the lens of, okay, that defines my worth. Because I know that these conversations that are fucking epic, I know that the right people will listen to them. Yeah. Okay, cool. How can I promote this better? How can I do stuff better? But I'm never attached to the outcome, because I think we can get in the habit, especially as creators, of looking at the vanity metrics, how many people have liked or commented. And yeah, it's obviously you're always looking to boost engagement and stuff, but it's like, posting something, putting out content, that this is valuable, and it's an internal knowing. And that's where you won't get any of these sort of negative emotions come up, or self-doubt or imposter syndrome. It doesn't energize you, because at the end of the day, if you've got this perception of, okay, I know this is valuable, and you detach your worth from what other people might say or think, but you're at the same time, you're open to learning, but you're also inspiring people. It's having that balance between and flicking between them both. That's how I think you can keep it energizing and fun, because at the end of the day, I haven't got sort of an outcome in mind. For me, it's just right. I just want to keep doing this forever. Like the consistency, the journey is where it's the most fun. So that's it. There's no external outcome. Yeah, I've kind of got these cool ideas of where I want to take it, but the whole reason why I started it was to create content that men can either be inspired by or be motivated by, or just find something that's relatable, you know? So if guys are struggling, they can listen to that and go, oh, you know what? That really helped me, or I can change my life. That's it. That's all I want to do, man. And if I get little comments just saying this changed my life, or yeah, do you know what? I really, really like this. It's like, yeah. And as long as I'm consistent, that's the only thing that's important. It's the most important thing, that I just continue every Tuesday whenever the episodes come out. We've got a new episode. It comes out, and yeah, I just know, it's just a belief, man. You just know that, okay, I know I'm on the right track. I know that if I keep putting this out, then the word's going to get out there. And yeah, I think the other stuff, it's, of course, there's always going to be improvements, but it's like, that's just showing up for yourself. That's it. So consistency is just, as you know, man, it's the most important thing. And I just know, like, you know, we've got some videos which have got, I think, I don't know, let's say like 14 views, 15 views. We've got some who've done like 600 in the first couple. Like for me, they've all got value in their own ways, and the right people will listen to them. It's just knowing that it's consistency.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just know that it's just this knowing. You just believe in yourself, and you just go, because you're detached from the outcome. You're in the game. You're in the video game. You know, once you've completed the video game, that's it. It's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like all these levels that you're doing, that's where the fun is, right?
So you're talking about consistency, and consistency without accountability is also a hard thing to do. Some people can do them by themselves, but some need help from others. What is your take about accountability groups, people helping each other to achieve goals?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it, man. It's something that I'm sort of looking to build in my own community. Once I build that out, it's okay, having people who have maybe been on the same journey you have as well, and inspiring you to do better. I think I would have certainly loved that. Again, when we're talking about this like half warrior, where you're like not quite where you want to be, but you've left the old bike, I think having a bunch of people on the same mission, I think, yeah, absolute game changer. I do think just having, even if it's not a coach, just having maybe like a trusted friend or just somebody who can support you on your journey, I think is a game changer. But ultimately, I think my stance has always been, at least at first, it was, okay, how can you show up for yourself every day when no one else is there to support you? Because I think if you've got the support network, then absolute game changer, bro. Amazing. But not everyone can get to these people, these like-minded people, straight away. And I think that is where the character traits and the discipline is developed, that will make you ready to access this new type of energy and these new types of people. But I think there is going to be a lonely spot. So it's knowing that, okay, what we've discussed here, having a group of people on the same mission, that's a game changer, super helpful. But I don't want to say that it's absolutely necessary either, because I think that can come from yourself, and that's where a lot of the growth happens as well. When there's nobody looking, there's nobody applauding you, it's just you and yourself. And that was sort of a big arc in my journey, and I guess yours as well.
Sure. If somebody's listening right now there, and he or she is feeling lost and really at her or his last feet, I'll say, if somebody's listening here right now and is at his or her worst, what is on your take? What is the first thing that they should do?
First thing, I could give a couple things, but this one thing, I'd say the first one is get help. 100% get help. If it's not a coach, it's a friend. Just tell someone that you're struggling. Yeah. Because otherwise you can go insane in your own world, think that, yeah, absolutely get help. That would be the number one thing. And now, if you want to sort of get a bit of the direction, I'd say, right, strip it back to the basics. What are the things that really get you going in life? What are the foundations that you need every single day? So for me, these are non-negotiable protected times of the day. Doesn't matter how much work I've got on, what's happening, the house is burning down. These are the things that I will always get done. And yeah, there's sleep. So it's like, okay, I'm getting at least 7 hours a day. Like that's a non-negotiable for me. Okay, we've got that. What else is there? Okay, well, I do a physical activity. So it's a gym or jiu-jitsu. And then just having that physical outlet, super, super important. Then there's, okay, right, just the basics, right? Just eat unprocessed food. Just don't have to overcomplicate it, but just eat food that makes you feel good. Simple as that, really. Just clean food. Just nothing in a packet or a tin, anything like that. Just keep it very simple. And yeah, I think figure out what these parts of your life are and just make sure they're consistent. So just simplify it. Right, what are these core things that you know will make you feel better? And then I would get clear on, okay, right, why are you in this situation? Why do you feel lost? Well, okay, there's a couple reasons, but, and this is the biggest takeaway that I've had, is you had an identity of who you were before, and now you're a bit lost, right? That identity, who you were before, maybe it was a certain character trait you had, maybe whatever it might have been, you're not that person anymore. And that's why you're struggling and feel lost. So it's letting go of that old identity of who you thought you should have been, or perhaps the path you were on before, maybe you failed, whatever it may be. And then once you've done that, let go of it, accept where you are. Acceptance is a big one. Accept where you are. Because a lot of the resistance comes because we think we should be doing this person, we should be achieving this. It's like, just accept where you're at. Big part of my journey, just accepting where I'm at, knowing that, okay, I will get there, but right now I'm not quite there yet. There's this gap between who you are now and who you thought you were, or where you want to be. And it's accepting, okay, you know what? Once you've accepted where you're at, then yeah, you've taken off a lot of pressure already, because then you're no longer trying to live up to this. So acceptance, get the boundaries in place, and then once you've done that, I think then is, okay, where do you want to go? And let's create a new identity. So what are the character traits you want to develop? What are the things that you're doing? Who are you spending your time with? How are you spending your days? Get really clear on who this best version of yourself is. Yeah, that's what I do. And then you map out a plan to get there, with the support of, maybe it's a coach, or if you can do it yourself, fantastic. But reverse engineer then, okay, what do I need to do to make this ideal life happen? But then, okay, it doesn't need to be too long away, right? What are the single habits that I need to do every single day to make this happen for myself? And then you can also go beyond that as well. You think, okay, right, what are the core things I need to change? Okay, well, I know this environment's not good for me, so I might need to change that. Maybe I need to get out of the country like we discussed, or maybe even just expose yourself to more self-development books, change your mindset, and then I'd say just start cultivating self-awareness. I think just like get a journal out and really just slow down. I think a lot of the time we can be lost because we're trying to do this thing, then this thing, then this thing. Just really slow down. If you're in a situation where you feel lost, great, amazing. Slow down. Just stop trying to feed into this sense of overwhelm and being lost. Like, slow down, figure out what's important to you. Go to nature, sit down with your book and just start writing. Just take time to be with yourself, detach from all the external noise. And that's where I think you'll start to get more and more answers. And there's different factors along the way. But yeah, in terms of the first thing, or maybe a couple of things, that's what I'd start with. Yeah.
All right. You said about coaches and people helping you to change. Why do you think some people are choosing to transform through coaching, masterminds, and others don't take the step and still spin the same wheel over and over again?
I think pride is a big one. You never want to think that you need help. And actually, if we talk about self-sabotage, right? Because a lot of the time we self-sabotage. And a big realization for me was realizing that we self-sabotage by not asking for help.
Yeah.
And thinking that we want to know, or perhaps subconsciously we're worried about what other people might think about us if we ask for help. But asking for help is one of the most important things we can do. So I think, yeah, pride is a big one. I also think some people might just not want it enough. They're perhaps they're not completely satisfied, but they're like comfortable as well. They haven't had that big wake up call, that big spur to go, okay, right, now's the time to change. They might say they want to change, but do they really, really want to, like, do they have that burning desire to change? Because when you do, you're going to be open to all types of support. I also think some people, will naturally think they can do it by themselves, which is understandable. It's this mentality of, right, I can do this. I believe in myself. I can do it. But I think we stay stuck because we don't know. We don't have the knowledge because, for example, you might procrastinate, for example. And I think the auto response, unfortunately, is to go, and then you beat yourself up. Well, why am I doing this? Come on, like, I could be doing better and better and better. Whereas I think but you don't know what you don't know. Like, you think you need to be more productive. So you Google, right, how to be more productive. It's never about productivity. There's a reason why you're procrastinating. There's deeper layers to it. There's a deeper understanding of yourself. So it's just knowing, and I get it because it's like, right, they don't know what they don't know. I also think there's a lot of skepticism out there. It's like, right, okay, can I trust this person? Can I really make a difference in my life with this person's support? I think there's unfortunately a lot of sort of false information out there. I think there's a lot of resistance, and naturally, especially with the nice guy, you have a lot of sort of trust issues as well. Stemming from sort of childhood wounds and that type of thing. So I think a big one is, I think not really knowing who to trust, not really thinking about their values, what they value. I think a big thing that you can do is you're thinking about a coach, but you might not is because of this distrust. Is okay, like, look at these people, speak to them, look at their social media. Do you share their values? If you share their values and you really like them, listen to your body. How do you feel when you're on a call with them, when you're interacting with their content? Does this guy inspire you? Do you 100% agree with everything that they say? Then it could very well be aligned. But at the same time, if you've gone, a big reason why people might not want to go for a coach is because the first couple of coaches they've seen, they thought, oh, I'm not really sure about this guy. I don't resonate with him. So that's a big one as well. It's knowing, okay, am I resonating with this person? I think that's a big step. Yeah.
One thing that changed your life forever.
Learning to feel my emotions, because feeling your emotions develops a bigger understanding of who you are as a person, and also gives you a lot of the answers that you've been looking for as well. It opens up your hearts, and when you open up your hearts, that's where suddenly life starts to make sense, and you can access this real joy and perspective in your life. Yeah.
All right. Most overrated self-help advice.
Sure, it's not the answers. Yes. Ooh, overrated. I never think about that. Hopefully you can cut down the no worries. That's a good one. Wow. The most overrated. Oh, overrated. That's a really interesting one. I've never thought about that. I'll tell you, I might put a spin on the question, if that's okay. But I think a big thing I see with a lot of people is that they look at maybe someone who inspires them and they try and emulate them and copy them, right? And they think, well, this is the best way to go about things, right? And I think actually the right approach, I think from my perspective, is rather than making a carbon copy of someone, thinking I have to be that person, because that's not always you. I think it's right going, okay, cool, I'm inspired by this person, this person, this person, this person. Let's take a little bit of each one. Yeah. And think, okay, how could I apply these elements to my own life? But also thinking about, right, who's the version that you want to become? So in terms of overrated self-help advice, I think the underrated one is more, okay, who do you want to become? And instead of overrated, I think the most common thing people do is look at someone inspiring and think, I have to become them. And all they have to do really is embrace their individuality, because that is where you become this unique blend of just, wonderful weirdness and originality. Yeah.
All right. What would you tell your 18-year-old self in one sentence? You just came back with a time machine and you have only 30 seconds to tell yourself in one sentence what to do. What would it be?
Everything is going to work out perfectly. Just enjoy the ride more.
Cool. Biggest red flag in a coach or a community?
Not for a coach, I would say not embodying the stuff that they're preaching.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a health and fitness coach and you're overweight, then yeah, I think that's a pretty clear red flag to me. I also think, yeah, not. I think if you've just got a sense that something's off, perhaps if something in your body doesn't feel right, then I would just say listen to that. Yeah, I think that your intuition tells you so much more than anything, man, for sure.
True. One non-negotiable daily habit for growth.
For growth?
Yeah.
Oh, I think if I was to pick one, I think meditation.
All right.
I think meditation for sure, because if we're talking about growth in the broad sense, I would say just having that time to cultivate a sense of self-awareness and really monitoring. I mean, I'm just speaking from personal experience here, but yeah, absolutely. Meditation has been a game changer, because then you can start observing your thoughts that come up. You can start using that practice in your everyday life. Yeah, I'd say that's sort of a number one, but then and we've also touched upon other stuff as well, man. I think just self-care, getting your boundaries in place with yourself is a big one. So figuring out, right, what are my non-negotiables every single day, and making sure you're doing that. So keeping your words to yourself as well is a non-negotiable, because when you keep your word to yourself, that's when you cultivate self-love, when you're disciplined and you do the stuff that you say you're going to do.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks, Harrison, for being here. It was an amazing podcast. We tackled on heaps of problems, heaps of interesting thoughts. And yeah, if you liked the content that we did, jump on his podcast. How's it called?
The Growth Voyage podcast. You can find us on Spotify and YouTube, Instagram. We've got plenty of reels on there. TikTok, we're on there. And yeah, seem to go on Apple Podcasts as well.
Amazing. And for more, you can also all join our Changes Mastermind. It's coming out very soon already. If anything that we spoke about here resonated with you, I think it's a place for you too. So thanks for listening and have a blast.
Thank you so much, brother. Really enjoyed coming on, and yeah, thanks so much for listening if you tuned in this far. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me as well. And yeah, thanks for having me on there. What a wonderful host.
Amazing. Thank you, man.
Thank you.